Hello and welcome to Off the Fence, brought to you in association with Bet365. This is, of course, your weekly rundown of all things jump racing. And my God, don't we have a lot to get through this week, because, of course, it's the Monday after the Dublin Racing Festival and we saw some sensational racing. Tony, Keenan, just a quick wrap-up of the weekend as a whole. How much did you enjoy it, watching it from home?
Not very much, to be quite honest with you. Basically got every single thing bet that or opinion that I had was wrong. So yeah, the racing was very good, and I've enjoyed going through the wreckage of it over the last day. But in terms of in the moment, the anticipation was far more enjoyable than the event, shall we say?
Right then, okay. Well, that's Tony Keenan just putting a big fat pin in my balloon, but that's fine. Don't worry about that. Barry, any more of a positive vibe from your end?
No, it was brilliant. I loved it. Some massive performances. So
there we go.
Obviously, an Energumene. I'm still buzzing with him.
It's when we're chatting on the WhatsApp group, I could tell you got a bit of a thrill out of him. We'll get to that in due course. We're going to start with the Irish Champion Hurdle. And actually this week, because you viewers sent in so many good questions, and of course a lot of your questions tie in with us reviewing the action, and so we're going to use some of your questions to do just that. So we're going to start with the Irish Champion, and we've got Alan Leahy who asks, now who would Barry choose between Honeysuckle and Epatante in the Champion Hurdle? Obviously at Cheltenham, Honeysuckle is now 5-2 for the Champion Hurdle with Bet365. So Barry, Honeysuckle obviously devastatingly impressive on Saturday and one of the real headline acts and the takeaway horses from the weekend. Just before we answer that question, as a performance, as a ride, just please expand on it and why it was so brilliant.
Well, it was brilliant. It was her best performance for me that she's put in to date. It was brilliant. She travelled great. She jumped brilliant. Rachel kicked for touch early and put the race to bed. So it did everything, and she was a good solid winner. There was no hole to pick on her. But I think the Champion Hurdle, where it probably hinges, is on the ground. This was soft ground. She won this race 12 months ago on yielding, or good to soft, as you'd like to call it in England. In a 12 seconds faster time. Now it's a different course. It was the inside track last year, where it was more of the outside track this year, which is a stiffer track if you like. So it clocked a faster time. The emphasis was on speed. She beat Petit Mouchoir 1 length last year. So for me, that's not really good enough. Where she had soft ground, steadier pace. For me, she was able to travel much more in her comfort zone. Sharjah was never even able to get a look in. I thought she jumped better at that pace on that ground. So I think the Champion Hurdle hinges on the ground. If it was on the better side, I think Epatante, it's hers. And if it's on the softer side, it's more in Honeysuckle's favour maybe.
Okay, and obviously we've spoken about it before on this podcast about how now Epatante's price for the Champion Hurdle is relying on Nikki Henderson essentially getting her back to that tip-top form come March. Tony, so on that basis, sorry Barry, before we leave you for this, going back to the original question, you have to choose between Honeysuckle and Epatante. Are you siding with Epatante on the basis of ground that we might get in March?
Well, you're more likely to get better ground. The slowest ground usually, it's on the safe side for the first day. It's well watered for Tuesday, and it can get quicker as the week goes on, depending on the weather. But if it's the same ground as last year, I think it's Epatante's. I think it'll need to be very soft for Honeysuckle to get the better of her, because Cheltenham's just such a sharp track, and I don't think it's going to play to her strengths as such.
Okay. And there you go. He's pretty much got off the fence there, I think it's fair to say. Tony, back to you. Do you think that was a genuine Champion Hurdle performance from Honeysuckle, and did it in any way surprise you? And if so, what part of that performance did surprise you at the weekend?
Well, of course, Barry's going to ride in Epatante because JP has far more money than Kenny Alexander. I'm sure Kenny has plenty of money too, but JP is an extra large bag of money. So anyway, that's that question answered. I was very impressed with her. And I think the difference between her and Epatante is she's one of these, what have you done for me lately? She did it for us on Saturday. Most impressive, as Barry said, jump better than she ever has. Ballsy sort of decision out of Henry de Bromhead to go to Fairy House back in November, have her half cooked, because that looks like what has happened. She still won, fell in a bit, but the improvement since then has been huge. I love the way she's been trained. I think there's another peak coming from her in Cheltenham. I suppose it is all there in a way. Like, she did beat Benny Desjeux in the mares last year. Benny was coming off probably a career best in the Galmoy. Admittedly, going back to 2.5 probably wasn't ideal for her, but plenty of horses to stay further have won the champion hurdle. In fact, they've been brilliant winners of the champion hurdle, the Annie Powers and the Fahines of the world. So I would say she's deserving favourite. I would have her ahead of Epatante. And yeah, I wouldn't see her as a particularly bad price or anything close to it. I'd say she's alright at 9 to 4, 5 to 2, certainly.
Very interesting indeed, and two completely different profiles, but I kind of the two mares coming into the champion hurdle, but I love it. You've got Honeysuckle coming here on a real progressive upward curve, and then Epatante on a bit of a comeback mission. The Irish versus the English, nothing better. And of course, we're going to have that again in the Arkle. Oh, it's going to be a dream day if they all get there on that Tuesday in March. Tony, let's stick with you because we've got a question here about Energumene. Obviously, in the Irish Arkle at the weekend, DJ BW asks, looking at the horses they have beaten this season, would you say Energumene's form is better than Shishkin, and who wins the Arkle?
Wouldn't necessarily say it's better than him. Obviously, Shishkin achieved far more over hurdles, but it's close. It was very good on the clock. I timed them from jumping the first to the line, and I think Energumene was half a second slower than Chacun Pour Soi in the previous race, which is obviously excellent. He's a 170 plus horse. There is the thing about him getting a little bit of soft lead, and that was a feature of the weekend. Like, while Willie Mullins was dominant, there was, I think, Kemboy, Monkfish and Energumene all got reasonably soft leads, you would have to say. But he's probably not the easiest horse to head. He goes a good clip, and he does in the main jump. Although he shifted right at a few down the back. Again, he looks very strong at the line, which is a good sign. But yeah, at the moment, at the price at the minute, I wouldn't actually be rushing to have a bet in this race. I'd be quite happy to actually watch it, because you do still have All Mankind, who's a potential horse to take him on up front. I do think Franco de Port, who I didn't really trust his Christmas win. I thought it was a complete pace collapse, ran very well. He made that bad mistake, I think it was at the third or the fourth, and he jumped quite slowly after that. He did really well to get back involved, all things considered. And it actually looks that he actually probably was just much the best horse of Christmas. And he wouldn't have, to me, have anything like the raw ability of an Energumene or a Shishkin, but that was a good run out of him. He was a little bit better than the result.
Okay, duly noted. Barry, straight over to you with Energumene then. What about it? You've already touched upon the fact that you're watching it from home. It's one of your performances from the weekend. What exactly about it is so exciting?
Just the ease at what he travels and jumps. He finds everything so easy. He's very measurable as jumping. He's so much scope. He makes ground if he's long or in short. He's just natural. I think All Mankind would be one who could maybe just, annoy him a little bit early on, but he's just so much class. He's got the size as well. We spoke last week about Altior, Sprinter Sacra and Shishkin and what's the difference. And Shishkin is a very, very good horse, but I'm just not sure if he's the size and scope of this fella. I just love the way he floats, travels, jumps, and how he finished. It was an all-round performance, and for me, All Mankind hassling him is the only thing that's going to really affect him in Cheltenham. He jumped marginally right on occasions, but it's only his fourth run over jump, so I'd put a lot of that down to a lack of experience. But he's an exciting horse, and Shishkin is likewise too. I think we could have a really hot Arkle with those two, but I don't see anything else trouble them.
No, I mean it's gonna be brilliant if they both get there. And Barry, you just touched upon it there, the difference in them. Sort of Energumene's got this feels like he's a real powerhouse, whereas actually when you see Shishkin, he's a much leaner sort of, and he's going to be in the race itself, he'll stalk them. He's not going to be anywhere near up the front, whereas Energumene's going to go from the front. And if they both end up there, I mean, if you had to choose to ride one now, I get the impression you're with the Irish Raider.
I probably is, just he excites me so much. But I think the race like that with All Mankind, if he's going to take on an argument up front, it could set it up for Shishkin sitting off the pace a little bit and judging his own fraction. So there'll be a little bit of cat and mouse maybe, but as an individual, I just love an argument.
Love it. Oh, so much to be excited about. Viewers at home, what did you love about the weekend? Honeysuckle versus Epatante, who do you think will win the champion hurdle, or anyone else for that matter? Shishkin versus Energumene. Again, tell us what you think. We want you to get involved, so in the comments box on Facebook, on YouTube, hit subscribe. You know the drill. Let's move on to my performance of the weekend, please. In the Flowgas Novices Chase, Monkfish. We have a question, obviously, from Philip Church, who's asked, should Monkfish go for the Gold Cup instead of taking the novice route? Royal Pagale could run in the Festival Novices race. Pretty sure it could be supplemented, and it would have easily beaten Kenboy if it ran in the Irish Gold Cup. Tony, over to you. Monkfish, at the moment, I don't see him going anywhere other than the novice chase route at the festival. How impressed were you with him at the weekend? And to answer Philip's question, would he have beaten Kenboy in the Gold Cup on Sunday?
Yeah, I'd say he probably would have. Looks a pretty good time performance out of Monkfish. I actually think he was the quickest horse from 3 out at the meeting over fences. I think Chacun might have been marginally quicker than him from 3 out. So then he's a novice racing over 5 furlongs further. So that's fairly tasty, and that's him not been all out. Yeah, I've kind of been a bit late to the party with him, trying to get him beat, but yeah, I don't know, do I really want to persist with that project. I suppose an interesting question. There's no chance of him going for the Gold Cup. There's absolutely no chance of him going for the Gold Cup. There's more chance of Arkle running the Gold Cup than him, to be honest. What price would he be in the Gold Cup is an interesting academic question. I think he'd probably be second favourite if he pitched up, would he?
Yeah, I think so.
Somewhere in between a Boom Photo and a Plutarda, something like that, I would say. But yeah, I think you kind of be in a hiding to nothing, maybe opposing this horse. He beat latest exhibition further. Tongue tie didn't seem to have any discernible effect on latest exhibition. He's already been to the track and won there. So yeah, I don't really want to be opposing this horse.
Fair enough. Barry, just from a jockey's point of view, obviously everyone's waxing lyrical about Monkfish now, and is visually wonderful to watch, but why is he so good as a novice? Like, what is he doing that makes him stand out from all the other novices and the good novices we see?
He's just so measured. Everything he does, if he's a long straight, short straight, he backs off and he measures his fence. He jumps perfectly. He never seems to get a foot around. But it was the ease of his win as well. He sprinted away in the straight. But if you heard the interview, Paul Townend's interview after the race, the horse wasn't even blown. So he could nearly say he could have gone round again. And he would be a contender at the Gold Cup, but you couldn't go for the Gold Cup having had only 3 runs over fences this season. So I'm sure that was definitely not on the radar.
No, it'd be a very non-Willie Mullins thing to do as well. That moves us nicely on to the actual Gold Cup itself, and of course the Irish Gold Cup, where they gifted Kenboy a lovely easy lead and off he went and duly won. Steve Box has asked, that's not a great trial for the Gold Cup, is it? Well, is it, Tony? Was that a decent Gold Cup trial?
No, not particularly, although I suppose it was positive that Kenboy did win for my purely selfish Plutarda interests.
It's really gathering pace that now, Tony. That is really snowballing.
Yeah, but it's a little bit that some of the rest of them can't get out of their own way. I'd say it's probably helping there, not least the stablemate who was disappointing. I thought the tactics on Mellon obviously didn't work at all, so they negated his biggest, what seemed to be his biggest asset the last day, which was going forward and jumping boldly. We know he's not the most predictable at the best of times, but he jumped poorly in behind. Actually, most of the field didn't jump with any great fluency. But I suppose they didn't want to compromise each other's chances. It was maybe Kenboy's day. Kenboy doesn't seem to really act around Cheltenham. Maybe Mellon's day in Cheltenham at least to get involved to some degree. Menelindo was disappointing. Maybe he needed the run a little bit. Maybe it was an insufficient stamina test for him that didn't go that hard. But even so, he hit the second last. I would have liked to see him come back a little bit better. He still only managed 4th, dealt the work jump poorly. Do you know what it might be? It might be a good trial for the stayers hurdle with the storyteller.
Oh.
I'm just going to bring this horse up again. I've been thinking about it a little bit more. Like, as a group of horses, the staying chasers are better than the staying hurdlers. I'm just talking about pure ability. Like, no one thinks that if you dropped a few of these Gold Cup horses back into the stayers hurdle, they wouldn't win it. or go very, very close. They're just better horses. Like, it's the old thing about no one dreams about winning a Stayers Hurdle. It's great to win it, but the Gold Cup is where the really good horses go. So we've got the Storyteller now, whose last 2 runs in Grade 1 chases have resulted in a win in Down Ryle and a good second here on the weekend. Now he's not Gold Cup class. Probably one of the reasons doesn't jump well enough. He definitely has his own way of getting across them. But that's going to be less of an issue over hurdles in the Stayers Hurdle. There's only 2 hurdles in the last 7 furlongs. And the market to me is saying at the minute that the UK horses are better, and probably they are. But the Storyteller's pushing for 20 to 1 there. I think he's in the form of his life. I hope to God Keith Donoghue is going to ride him. He's surely not going to ride Ronald Pump over him. If nothing else to keep Gordon happy, I think he's a far better chance than Ronald Pump too. But yeah, I think he has a chance in a Stayers Hurdle. Maybe he's going to be ridden too far back and he's just going to run on into a place. But he is absolutely thriving at the minute. It makes no sense that he's improved at this stage in his career, but he has. And I like him for the Stayers Hurdle.
Love that. See, just love that. There you go. Storyteller, 20 to 1 for the Stayers Hurdle. How can you argue with that? Barry, back to the actual Irish Gold Cup and it being a Gold Cup trial in itself. I think we know that it's not for Ken Boys taking come March, but Rimanella Indo, how much did that mistake at the second last take out of him, and how did you think he was going, and what are you thinking now about him ahead of the Gold Cup in March? It'll still be his aim, won't it? He's 20 to 1 at the moment.
I'd imagine so, but the ground for me, it dried up a good bit from the soft that they described it early in the day. And the chase track in Leopardstown has given plenty of problems in recent years, and it looked to me like it dried out. I thought Manila Indo was never happy. He was going as quick as he could go on the ground. It was obviously ideal for Kenboy, but Manila Indo was doing as much as he could do. Rachel gave him a squeeze and a good push at the back of the third last, so I think the mistake was only a reflection on maybe how he wasn't travelling as well as you might like him to be. So for me, he never really had a chance from the third last. I think he just needs soft ground. He'd have been happier if he was in Sandown.
Swimming around Sandown, yeah. We'll get to Sandown in due course, actually. Everyone at home, viewers, let us know, what do you think about our comments, and what do you think is going to win the Cheltenham Gold Cup currently at the prices? Who do you fancy? Get involved. We want to hear from you as always, please. You've all got very strong opinions post Dublin Racing Festival, so let us know what they are. We've got a good question about sort of best of the rest type situation here. We've got David Lloyd has asked, are all the following races a procession in waiting with the current anti-post favourites? So the Supreme with Appreciate It, Champion Chase with Chacun Pour Soi, RSA with Monkfish, and the Bumper with Kilcruit. Just as a sort of get us off the fence, one word answer. Is it all a procession, Tony? Yes or no?
No. But I think the lads are going to run a bit of a graphic there on Willie Mullins' record with short price horses at the meeting. I just put a few things together there earlier on. Just do want to stress that betting the short price Willie Mullins horses at the festival is maybe perceived as some sort of muggish approach to betting or that. Well, make your own decision on that, but profit wise and strike rate wise, it's actually not a bad approach. I looked there today and he's had 63 horses sent off 3 to 1 or shorter since 2006, and 30 of them have won. Level stakes, you'd be winning 12 points, on Exchange SP you'd be winning about 19 points on those, so that's pretty decent compared to every other trainer, and all their 3 to 1 shots and below are way or you're losing on those. So that's interesting. There was a period there in 2015 and 2016, I think, where he had 16 of those and 11 of them won. Last few years it hasn't been as good, but this year does feel a little bit like these short ones are just going to go and win. I'm going to probably break sticks of myself overcomplicating things, as I often do, trying to find something to beat them, as I did at the weekend. I spent most of the weekend tricking about in place markets, trying to do stuff which didn't really end very well. But anyway, I do think that's something to bear in mind. Of those few, I would see Monkfish is quite solid because he's done it at the track. Concertista the same. Kilcruit, who will come to, Champion Bumper's a different conversation. You're talking about unexposed horses. You're talking about a very big field of horse. I don't fully trust what he did on Saturday either. But maybe we'll come.
Yeah, we'll come to him in a bit. That's very interesting, that last line there. But just Barry, before we move on to Appreciate It, from your point of view, are those 4 very strong? Is it a procession? Yes or no?
I wouldn't say procession. I think Monkfish, Chacun Pour Soi, and possibly Kilcruit, if he's as good as he led us to believe he is on Saturday. But I just Appreciate It, I'm not fully convinced. I thought after his win in Leopardstown previously at Christmas, I thought 2.5 would suit him better. And if anything, that was confirmed for me yesterday. I think on better ground he could be vulnerable as well. So, and Ballyadam surprised me how well he travelled up in the turn-in. He missed the last, which I would put a lot of that down to the very soft ground. The hurdle track in Leopardstown was very soft, but the chase track might have dried, the hurdle track didn't. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Ballyadam give him a run for it on better ground and a sharper track like Cheltenham. So I'd be a little bit wary about Appreciate It in the Supreme. But if he was in the Ballymore, I'd be sweetening him there.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, obviously at the start of the season, if you said that Appreciate It, we've had this conversation I think before, but you'd never would have thought he was a supreme horse, and yet that's what he's doing what he's doing. But like you're saying, Barry, there's just a niggling feeling that he's going to be much more comfortable over further. Tony, what did you make of Appreciate It's performance at the weekend? He's now 7-4 for the Supreme with Bet365. That seemed very short to me. I know sort of nothing else has really put in a sparkling show. We might see something this weekend over here in the UK, but does that not seem very short?
I don't know. It's a very short. I had a little look at it there today, and outside just looking at the percentages there today, outside of the top 5 or 6, they were adding up to like 70% of an over-round. Didn't see any other obvious horses that were really going to come into it. You'd need something to come out of nowhere. I had a bit of a look at just the comparative times. The 2 races there run over the same trip, the Quilixios and Appreciate It. Like Quilixios, again, I'm just timing this from the first to the line because at least when they're jumping the first, they're up to a certain speed. Quilixios was 2.2 seconds quicker, which again shouldn't really be because he's a 4-year-old hurdler, only just turned 4, and against the older novices. But I think the most interesting thing was that to 3 out, the Quilixios race, which St. Sam was setting the pace, was 4.7 seconds ahead of the Appreciate race. I just think the Appreciate race that didn't go a gallop, they really went a gallop at Christmas for him. They didn't go hard enough here, and he still won. I'm finding him a hard horse to figure out. I'm not sure where I am with him. I was talking with Barry beforehand, but like Leopardstown, he's 4 from 4 at Leopardstown now. Some really impressive wins at Leopardstown, but he got beaten at Cheltenham. Is Cheltenham maybe not his track? Watched Champion Bumper back there this evening. Didn't really see anything. Maybe he's in front a little bit too soon. Maybe he just doesn't have the gears over 2 in that type of race. Not the easiest horse to figure out. I thought Blue Lord ran okay. Thought he settled better over 2. I thought we didn't get the fine out because he got too far back in the race to really get a measure of where he was relative to Appreciate It. But then I went looking at another few stats. Like the record of Willie Mullins outsiders, or even horses that are priced in double figures into Supreme, is horrendous. Since 2010, I may have this slightly off because I'm just going from memory here. I think he's at 16 or 17 horses, 10 to 1 or bigger. I think the best any of them finished was 6th. But the ones that are single figures have a brilliant record. So the market usually does sort it out, and Appreciate It seems to be the one that they're favouring at the minute. So I'm finding that group of horses a little bit hard to work out. I'm going to need to think on it for a little bit longer.
We can give you that time on this show, Tony. You can have that time. Barry, just a quick line from you on Quilixios in terms of the performance he put up and where he stands in the pecking order behind Zanahiyr. Obviously, in the anti-post market for the Triumph Hurdle, Quilixios a good few points behind Zanahiyr. Quilixios currently 6-1 with Bet365 for the Triumph Hurdle. But do you think he can put it up to Zanahiyr? And do you think we'll see them both in the Triumph, obviously from the same yard?
Well, obviously different owners, so there's every chance they both could turn up, or there could be alternative arrangements. I'm not really sure, but I think Quilixios is the next best to Zanahiyr. But for me, Zanahiyr is the one to beat. Okay. But it was a good performance with Quilixios. I'm pronouncing his name wrong there, I know, but I'll
plough on.
I won't try it again.
Yeah, don't worry. Let's move on.
Yeah.
we can move on to Chacun Pour Soi anyway because the producers are shouting at me. Timing wise, Chacun Pour Soi, Barry. For me, that was his best performance to date. I think that we saw at the weekend. Would you agree with that?
I would. In the finish, I think the strongly run race, the gallop that Notebook set really played to his strengths. He hit that little bit of a flat spot between 2 out in the turn in, and then he finished down the straight like a lion. So, he's rock solid. It was a brilliant performance, and, he's a worthy short price favourite. All the same, but I would say Altior, I think, is maybe a little bit of value each way. He's the only one who could threaten him.
Yeah, interestingly, actually, I heard someone saying, I read somewhere or whatever, that Chacun Pour Soi in this sort of form would put it up to Altior when he was at his absolute peak. So Altior's got to come back to somewhere near his peak. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that, yeah, but I think Altior is the only horse that can trouble the Chacun Pour Soi that we saw on Sunday. I'm not saying he'll beat him, but he's his biggest threat, or he'll be nearest to him.
Yeah, okay. And Tony, from your point of view with Chacun Pour Soi, you spoke about it on Sky Sports Racing with Jamie Lynch on Friday, and it really caught my attention because it's something me and Jamie have spoken about quite a bit, is how Chacun Pour Soi often, for 90% of his races, you feel like it's sparkling, and then the last sort of 10%, he doesn't quite do what you're expecting him to do. Yet at the weekend, I think he did exactly what we all wanted him and sort of expected him to do. Do you think he's a horse who is going to relish the Cheltenham Hill? Would he be a horse that you would want to oppose in the Champion Chase currently, post the weekend?
He definitely dispelled a few doubts on that front on Saturday. Sorry, I want to take this conversation completely the other way, because I know we're eulogising all these short price horses. It's not much use to me as a punter, but I think I might have something that might be a little bit interesting also in the race. I think Fakir Dudouri's ran a smasher of a Ryanair trial in second. I've kind of slagged him before, and I thought he was disappointing in his first 2 starts this year. This was something different. This was probably his best run ever. It was definitely akin to his run in the Arkle last year. He's never looked like he's a better horse than Notebook until Saturday. Joseph Brown's yard, to be quite frank, have been in the doldrums most of the winter. They were obviously aiming at this meeting because they had a number of horses that ran well at big prices. He was one of them. It's not really reflected in the market, but I thought the Ryanair got a huge shake-up over the weekend. Min was pulled up. Now, he's only drifted a point or two, but he would have been well beaten, I would say, in that race the way he was going at the time. His jumping didn't stand up at all. That's probably what he's going to get in the Ryanair. He's going to give his fill of it with Allaho. St Calvados fell, and again, he hasn't really drifted either. So I'm just surprised the two of them haven't. To me, Fakir ran a really good trial. The other thing with Fakir, of course, he's had 3 runs at Cheltenham. He won at the January meeting. He ran a good Fortin Supreme, and he just was beaten in an Arkle last year, so you know he likes the track. I thought that the Ryanair really opened up at the weekend. I thought Min was fiercely disappointing. It's not an ideal prep, the same as it's no more an ideal prep for St Calvados. So I backed him none or no bet for the Ryanair today.
Love it. What price is he?
And there's always a chance he'd go back for the Champion Chase if something happens to Chacun Pour Soi. But it looked a pretty good Ryanair trial to me. With a race that is after, as I say, opening up a little bit, I thought, over the weekend, which I just don't think it has registered in the market yet.
Like it a lot. That's why we have you on the show, you see, Tony, to take us off the beaten track. Was Kilcrut's performance too good to be true, Tony?
I think it was a little bit of a pace collapse. I think the ones in front went very hard. I think looking again at the section at times, I think from 5 furlongs out, they were so much slower. Again, 5 or 6 seconds slower than the handicap hurdle. That's taken out the hurdles. The hurdles take about 0.6 of a second each. So it was a little bit of a collapse. I always think the camera work made him look brilliant. I may come to the camera work again, but it made the rest of them look like they were standing still. But when you see something like Ramilly stopping to a walk, I would give Gavin Cromwell's horse a lot of credit for sticking at it. And maybe you could point that's a stick to beat him with, like that Kilcruit beat him a lot easier than Gaillard beat him in Navan. But the Navan race was just so different. It was really tactical, really sort of high finishing speed up into the 110s. It was a walk, and Gavin Cromwell's horse got to dictate. I think Gaillard in a properly run race would be a different proposition to that one. You know, this horse is now 6-4 for Champion Bumper. I would say there's every chance he's a really good horse, but it's kind of after opening up the each way angle a bit for Gaillard, I think. And just in general, like Gordon kind of didn't run his 3 best. That's not strictly true. His 3 best Cheltenham chances didn't run at this meeting, which was a little bit surprising. He's prioritised Cheltenham over the Dublin Racing Festival. Like, would Envy Ellen have beaten Monkfish? well, he would have been a shorter price. I'd be adamant of that. But Zanahiyr have beaten Quilixios, most likely. And with Sir Gaillard, well, I'd say Sir Gaillard would have been a favourite over Kilcruit. It's just interesting that Gordon has decided, no, we'll prioritise in Cheltenham, giving these horses different type of prep than the Dublin Racing Festival. Just when we are celebrating Willie, just needs to be pointed out that his biggest rival didn't run those 3 horses.
Yeah, absolutely. Bring us back down to earth, Tony. That's what you're here for. Barry, I just wanted to ask you from a jockey's point of view, if you're riding Kilcruit, if you're riding any horse that goes past the rest of the field like they're standing still, or the sort of front 2 anyway, and we'll come on to the camera angles, but I mean, is that performance, do we have to take that literally? And when you've ridden a horse like that, do you start questioning the form yourself? Do you start wondering what happened there? I mean, what goes through a jockey's mind in that situation?
Well, I suppose it's a good complaint, to have a horse winning as easy as that, and you can question it, but, maybe he wouldn't have been as impressive had they not gone as hard earlier through the race, but I'd imagine he'd still have won. But I think Tony makes a good point as regards the pace, and it probably reflects strongly on Kilcruit. It makes him look all the more impressive than maybe he really was. But you'd have to take note, he's the one Patrick picked. I know Ruby was surprised he picked him, whether that's anything to take on board, but it's hard to get away from the performance on the day. It was very strong. If they went too quick, they went too quick, but he went to the line hard on the bridle. Yeah.
Visually very impressive, that is for sure. Tony, quick word on you with you before we move on Gaillard de Mesnil. A Barry Geraghty moment there. Now 7-2 for the Ballymore with Bet365. I know you had some value points to make about this race, didn't you?
Yeah, just a couple of things, not necessarily to do with the horse. Willie Mullins sticking a hood on him, unusual. I just trying to monitor this over the last month or so. He seems to be using a bit more headgear than he has been in the past. Willie actually, a couple of very interesting quotes as you go back, just disavowing headgear. There's an interview with someone asking Michael O'Leary, would Don Poley wear a pair of blinkers? He says that he had never taught Willie. They just wouldn't. His attitude is the jockeys just ride him a bit harder. Not a chance. But he seems to change that. He's using the hood a lot more. He's using the tongue tail a lot more. He's using cheek pieces a bit more. It's kind of unusual that he went for the hood on Gaillard de Mini. It's kind of a bit like the Kilcruit thing there. When everything went right for Kilcruit, you change it, and the next day maybe you don't. But with Gaillard de Mini, everything went right the last day, and they still changed something. I think that's a sign actually of a really good trainer, that they're kind of adapting as they go. And the hood, he did seem to settle a bit better. The other thing, again, trying just to find angles into other races, Stattler, who was third, I think, in the end, he is favoured for the Albert Bartlett sponsors, colours and all that. The ride was aggressive, but he still didn't convince me that he wanted to go up to 3. He was weakening in the up the straight a little bit. Like Mouse Morris's horse, who'd initially been outpaced, passed him out again. Fakiera, who's a little bit of a boat, was staying on as well. So I just wonder, is he a weak favourite now for the Albert Bartlett, a little bit of a default favourite with the 3 miles far from certainty, and making all in that race will be tough going. Usually get a full field for that.
Yeah, interesting for sure. Viewers, get in contact, please. Do you like Tony's big shouts of the storyteller in the Stayers Hurdle and Fakir Dairies in the Ryanair? Get involved. Let us know what you think, please, on all our other views as well. Were you impressed with Kilcruit? Are you taking that form literally? You know the drill. Tell us what you think, please. We are going to move on to what we have taken offence to this week, and I'm handing the microphone straight over to Tony Keenan. Me and him are on the same wavelength with this because it's back to a problem we have spoken about before, Tony. I wouldn't be able to watch a race. How about you?
I'm not going to go over old ground here. It's just a camera walk again. We're now using 4 different camera shots, it seems, in a race. It's very hard to get a full perspective of the race. We're using what we call the traditional shot, where you're trying to get the full field inside on. Then we're using the tracker, which is going into close up. We're using the drone as well, and then we're using the ultra close up. Like it's just not working. Like they were cutting from Monkfish back to other horses in that race. You hadn't a clue how some of them jumped at last. Blue Lord disappeared in that Chanel Pharma for a furlong. I'd love to know how he was travelling. Did he meet any trouble? It's just you just can't see the race. To me, that's the number one thing. You want to see as much of the field as you can, jump on the hurdles, and I don't know, like, are they getting loads of praise for doing this? Are people saying this is magnificent? But to me, it's not. I think in any sport, you want to just see the action rather than just the artistic close-up in the moment.
Yeah, I would actually tend to agree with you on it, I'm afraid. I love the artistic close-up after the race. I love the drone shot after the race. I just want to be able to watch the race, and then after the race, it's great to have that side-on tracker camera of Monkfish galloping along. And from a PR point of view, it does really sell the sport. It takes you much closer to the action. But in terms of actually watching the race, it's very frustrating when you can't see any other horse, essentially, for a good few yards. But anyway, hopefully.
And it's not just in Ireland as well. Like
we had it at Sandown. Yeah, we didn't know what happened.
Yeah, damn the company just disappeared on in the Silly Isles. No one knew where she went. And we found out after the race what happened to her. Like, just show the race, lads.
Yeah, agreed. It's definitely not just in Ireland, I should make that point. But anyway, we can move on now to Sandown. And Barry, I think performance of the day from Sandown for me was Native River winning the rescheduled Cotswolds Chase. Now 16-1 for the Gold Cup with Bet365. It might be a bit of too much of a fairy tale step to say that he could win a Gold Cup this year at the age of 11 now. But it was a pretty decent performance, and it was great to see him back. Great for the Tizzards.
Yeah, it was great to see the Tizzards back in form, and a brilliant performance by Native River. He loved conditions, and I'd say even Jarl Enki added to it as well, because he's never had a pacemaker like that. They went flat to the boards. It was a complete war of attrition, and you know, himself and Bristol de May were tailor made for that, and it was a brilliant finish and a great performance, and you know, it was all brilliant. But as regards the Gold Cup, I'm not certain it's going to have much of a reflection on it. You'd like to think that Album Photo has that bit more pace, that he'll be able to deal with that. So Santini was a little bit disappointing back in third, and he'll need to improve on that if I'm still going to be fancying him for the Gold Cup.
Yeah, a touch disappointing for sure. The horse I did want to talk to you about from Sandown was Sporting John. Richard Johnson, good, brilliant ride actually. Philip Hobbs got this horse back to somewhere near his best, but for me, it still feels, even though he won at a big prize and he kind of ran a slightly odd race. For me, he's still on a bit of a recovery mission. You know this horse very well. Where are we at with Sporting John?
I thought it was a great performance, and it was a brilliant ride by Dickey. Shan Blue and Paint the Dream went hard all the way up front, and although Shan Blue led Sporting John to probably 150 yards in the line, and it was a really good performance by him to stay there because they had gone so hard. But I thought Dickey gave Sporting John a brilliant ride, and his class showed in the finish, and he just had that extra kick to go and win the race. So it was a good performance. I think in any normal year you'd fancy him for the Marsh, but just with Envoy Allen there, that just shows a different complexion on it. But he's definitely there with each way shout. I thought it was a good solid run. He jumps well. He's had 2 runs over fences now. He disappointed first time, but on its own that was a good performance.
Okay, well, let's stick with the English action and look ahead to the weekend very quickly. Heading over to Newbury, Altior back in the game spirit. Very much looking forward to seeing him here. I mean, given what we've just spoken about with the Irish Raiders for the Champion Chase, I mean, he needs to be winning this, and he needs to be winning it well, and he needs to be now going to the Cheltenham Festival really back in the groove, doesn't he?
Oh, I think definitely, yeah. But for me, he didn't run bad in Kempton. You know, he's had a bit of a hit and miss time in the last 18 months, but he's a very, very good horse. I think he's much better than the opposition. Green Teen, for me, has to improve a bit to trouble him. Newbury, he won that race last year. I think the track suits him well. Kempton's a bit sharp from Newbury's ideal. I think you'll see what Altior can do at the weekend, and I think the 8-1 in the Champion Chase is probably not bad each way value at the minute. Like
it a lot, bit of confidence there. And do you have the same level of confidence, Barry Geraghty, about Champ, who we hopefully will see in the Denman Chase at the weekend? What do we need to see from Champ? I mean, just seeing him at all will be good at this stage now.
Oh, definitely be great to see him out. He's 4 from 4 on Newbury, so he's that much going for him. But it's a strong race, Clandazobo especially. Lawson's and Translation is there, but he would struggle with conditions as they stand. So Clandazobo would be the one. He's got the benefit of runs this season, so the there's going to be a bit to do for Champ to beat him, but if he can beat him, he's definitely towards the head of the market. But it'll be an interesting race. It's going to tell us a bit, and we'll have a better idea where we know we stand with Champ. He's definitely, I gather his schooling is very good, so hopefully with improvement in his jumping, he can put in a better show than he did in the RSA.
Okay, positive vibes about Champ as well then, like it. I think we'll learn a lot over the weekend. We've of course got the Betfair Hurdle to look forward to, and also the Kingmaker as well, where we'll see the aforementioned All Mankind with any luck. If he could add to what is already a scintillating Arkle, then yeah, it's just terribly exciting. But we are going to wrap up, as always, with a bit of tracker time. Barry Geraghty, who's your tracker horse this week, please?
I liked Chacun, who was sixth in Leopardstown at the weekend in the 2 mile chase. He appreciated the drying ground, but I think he'd appreciate stepping up to 2.5. So if he gets that kind of a race 2.5 on nice ground, I think he should go close.
How many of your tracker horses have won so far, Barry?
Just the one. A lot of them are resting up, I believe.
Tony, who's your tracker horse for the weekend from the weekend, please?
I think this horse is going to be going against Barry's horse sometime in the future. I just think with Machuca, they picked the wrong race for them. I think they put Mythbuster ahead of him and ran him in the 2.5 mile race. I think Machuca might have been better suited to that. I think he's a better prospect anyway, same ownership. But in that race, the Mythbuster race, they raced it off Ugo. I thought Gooseman ran really well in 6th. It was effectively his first runs in summer of 2019 for Tom Taff. He'd been promising, I remember him running in Fairy House at the Easter meeting there, a 3 mile handicap chase. He just powered through it, just got outstayed. I think he's actually a 2.5 miler. And he fell at Limerick, fell unseated at the first at Limerick over Christmas. So I'd say they were just keen to get him jumping, get him around, which he did. He jumped quite well. He's a real powerful traveller. I wasn't given a hard time and hung in well and ran on into 6th late on. I wouldn't be thinking Cheltenham or anything like that for him. I think there's a race there for him at Leopardstown in early March. It's kind of a pre-Cheltenham meeting. It'll be another graded handicap chase. It's usually not the strongest race. It'll be actually quite valuable race for what it is, with other horses maybe going to Cheltenham. I think that'd be ideal for him if they could aim him back at that. Provided he stays sound, obviously he's had his health issues.
Into the tracker Gooseman goes, and it should go in all your trackers, viewers, because Tony Keenan, I think, has had 4. Is it 4, Tony? I know you don't like to talk about it, but is it 4 tracker winners so far?
Something like that. We'll worry about trying to find the next one.
Such a modest man. I had 1 tracker winner and I had to ring and tell everyone, including my grandmother. But anyway, that was Off the Fence. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed the review of the last 7 days. It has been brilliant action. Please get involved as always. Subscribe, like, retweet, comment. We read them all, so please do get in contact with us, or talk to Barry on his Twitter or Tony on his Twitter, and all the good questions come in. So yeah, get in contact with us. But that was Off the Fence for another week, brought to you in association with Bet365.